So we're presented with this life that seems continuous, that seems like karma is an inexorable, deterministic sentence. The causes that have existed before us exist. Therefore, the effects that must occur in this time must occur, right? But there's a gap. You can separate the links. You can perceive that gap in time, in thought. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This year we've been fairly consistent about having a Dharma talk on the first Sunday of the month. And last Sunday we were closed for the 4th of July weekend. And so you're treated to a Dharma talk, whether you like it or not. And I am pleased to see there are so many more people here this weekend than there were last Sunday when we were closed. So some of you are aware that this year's Bodhisattva initiation program has begun. This is the Jukai program. And eons ago, at a time called last month, we had our first meeting. And at least last year, and it looks like maybe we're going in the same direction this year, Chigan Roshi has prepared this list of preparation notes for Bodhisattva initiation, which is largely just a printout of the precepts that we commit to during the Jukai ceremony. And a lot of the content of the preparation meetings is going through the precepts in order and talking about them. So this first meeting we had last month, we started with the verse of purification, Sangemon, and discussed that for, I think, more than an hour, the majority of the meeting, and got me thinking about what I would say about the verse of purification. So here you are. Who's in the Jukai class this year? Who is a Bodhisattva initiate? Christopher, welcome. So I'm sorry if this feels like piling on to you. But to bring it back to our mind, let's recite it together. Purification. All the harmful karma ever committed by me since of old, caused by my beginningless greed, anger, and folly, born of my body, mouth, and thought, I now confess and purify it all. Thank you. And I'll add a tiny translation note. We're about to produce a new printing of the Sutra book, and the translation will change very slightly for this verse. The last line has been, I now confess and purify it all. It will become, I now atone for and purify it all. So there's maybe a slightly different shade there. So we started this meeting online, and it became known that we were going to read the verse of purification and discuss it. And so then we all read it out loud, and I was making an effort to hear it with fresh ears. What is this thing really about? And quite surprisingly, did hear it a different way than I ever had heard it before. It starts with all the harmful karma ever committed by me since of old, caused by my beginningless greed, anger, and folly. And I was hearing this, asking myself, well, what is karma really? And the root word for karma in Sanskrit just means action. So a karma is any act, any action. And the doctrine of karma, therefore, in Hinduism and Buddhism, to put it quite simply, is just stating the fact that actions have effects. the things we do, the things that anybody does, those have effects. And that's karma. So then we get these two references right away to the idea of, I'll say, ancientness. All the karma ever committed by me since of old, caused by my beginningless greed, anger, and folly. Well, in Buddhism, we don't, backing up. When I was growing up in Catholic theology, we talk about how, there is this chain of cause and effect. We all know this, we all see this in our lives. One thing is caused by another. Well, you can't possibly imagine that chain of cause and effect going back infinitely in time and space. So there must be a first mover, and that first actor must be God. Well, in Buddhism, we don't have that. We don't bother to make some bold claim about something like that we can't observe. Instead, we just say, well, as far as anyone can tell, these chains of cause and effect go back beyond where we can observe, as far as we can see. The chain of cause and effect goes backward in time. So we have beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance. And it says, all the harmful karma ever committed by me since of old. Chigan Roshi kind of gave way to this a little bit in our discussion, but I think harmful is deceptive here. Because, the first read, you think, we're sort of confessing our sins, if you will. And that's totally accurate. But harmful, to say that some karma is harmful implies that other karma is the opposite of that, beneficial or virtuous or something. And that's pretty dualistic. We would be, I think, a little bit caught in a trap if we started to divide karma into the good pile and the bad pile. Who can say, really, that some effects are harmful and some are beneficial? Do you all know the story of the old man who lost his horse? This is an ancient Chinese Taoist story. Can anybody tell it to us? Here, I printed it out for you if you need any help. Help. Read us the story, quick.
The old man lost his horse, but it all turned out for the best. What is the next line? The old man of the frontier lost his horse. How could he know if this is not fortuitous? Also known as bad luck, good luck. Who knows? Or bad luck brings good luck, and good luck brings bad luck, are some of the many titles given to one of the most famous parables from the Huainanzi, Master of Huainan, chapter 18, dating to the 2nd century BC. The story exemplifies the view of Taoism regarding fortune, good luck, and misfortune, bad luck. The story is well known throughout the East Asian culture sphere and is often invoked to express the idea of silver lining or blessing in disguise in Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, and Japanese. In Western literature, the parable was modified and is frequently used in philosophical or religious texts or in books dealing with management of psychological strategies.
Yeah, just read the translation of the story, or maybe Lucas. Everyone can have a turn.
Old man of the frontier loses horse. Good luck and bad luck create each other, and it is difficult to foresee their change. A righteous man lived near the border. For no reason, his horse ran off into barbarian territory. People, felt sorry for him, but his father spoke to him. Who knows if that won't bring you good luck? Several months later, his horse came back with a group of good, noble barbarian horses. People, congratulated him, but his horse spoke to him. Who knows if that won't bring you bad luck? Now his house is rich in horses, and the son mounted with joy loved riding. He fell and broke his leg. People, felt sorry for him. But his father spoke to him. Who knows if that won't bring you good luck? 1 year later, the barbarians invaded across the border. Adult men strung up their bows and went into battle. 9 out of 10 border residents were killed, except for the son because of his broken leg. Father and son were protected, and both survived. Hence, bad luck brings good luck, and good luck brings bad luck. This happens without end, and nobody can estimate it.
Thank you very much. So the idea of the story obviously is just that something happens and it seems to be good or bad. We are quick to label it that way. And on the surface of things, of course, that's easy to say, but you don't know where that's going to lead. And the same can be said about karma. Somebody does something, let's say someone does something to you that you don't like. Of course, it's easy to say that might be harmful karma, but that's not the beginning of the chain. That's not the end of the chain. You don't know where this leads. You don't know what continuation of cause and effect is going to happen in your life. And it's not accurate to try to pull any one event out of the whole stream of time and say, well, this event exists by itself. This event is bad. You can't do that. You can't pull anything out like that. So it is probably wiser to look at the totality and reserve judgment. And moreover, if we talk about harmful karma, it sort of implies the opposite. It sort of implies beneficial karma, or if I can make it a notch worse, virtuous karma, right? Because the first way to read this purification verse is to say, well, okay, we acknowledge that we've done bad things and we apologize for those things. Well, sure, but the other side of that coin is to say, oh, well, we're not apologizing for the virtuous things we've done. Why would we do that? Those things are wonderful. But that's almost worse. Because if we start thinking we have done virtuous things, we have committed good karma, we're never going to make an effort to let go of that karma. We're never going to make an effort to let that idea depart from our sense of self. And again, I can't resist making a reference to my college years in Catholic theology. There are famous theologians that say that the worst sin in Christianity is the sin of spiritual pride. The sin of saying, well, I'm better than somebody else because look at all the good things I do. Look at all the virtuous karma. Look at all of I'm thinking of Emperor Wu now. Look at all of the temples and pagodas and monasteries that I've built. How much merit have I accumulated? Well, you know the answer to that. So I think maybe it's helpful if we just forget about the idea of this karma being harmful or beneficial or bad or good. Just think of karma. All the karma ever committed by me, all the chains of cause and effect that stretch back who knows how far. And then the line after that, born of my body, mouth, and thought. A very simple way to look at this is just that this lists the 3 ways that we can act, the 3 ways that we can make karma with our actions, with our speech, with our thoughts. Fine. I now confess and purify it all, or I now atone for and purify it all. And so, for me, the key word here is karma, and the key image here is this image of a chain of cause and effect. that's what karma teaches us, that the things we do have an effect. And it's important that we learn that, right? We try to teach that to the youngest children who can understand it, and we keep trying to teach that to the oldest adults who fail to understand it. The things we do have an effect, right? And these chains of cause and effect continue. They don't stop with now, they don't stop with today, they don't stop with this generation, they keep going. But what do chains do? What do chains principally do in this world? I think for me, the first answer is, you have this idea of one link connecting to another, okay? One thing brings the next thing, brings the next thing, brings the next thing, brings the next thing. But the other thing that you think is that chains basically function to limit our freedom. A chain ties something down, right? So we think about this one link leading to another. That's kind of inexorable, right? The one link of the chain is attached to the next link of the chain, and that's it. The effect comes because the cause has come. The effect has to come, right? So I want to read for you a tiny bit about sort of the Buddhist idea of thought and time. Think about a movie. Think about a film. A movie, hence the name, appears to move. The image appears to move, but we all know that it's just a series of still images, one after another. And it looks like each frame leads to the next in some continuous action, but that's just a trick. That's an illusion, okay? So using that metaphor, I want to read you a tiny bit about what Eknath Easwaran has to say about the nature of time and thought. This is from Eknath Easwaran's introduction to the Dhammapada. He's talking about how the mind works in samadhi. In these depths comes a revolutionary realization. Thought is not continuous. Instead of being a smooth, unbroken stream, the thinking process is more like the flow of action in a movie, only a series of stills, passing our eyes faster than we can perceive. This idea is one of the most abstract in Buddhism, and movies make such a concrete illustration that I feel sure the Buddha would have appreciated having a reel of film around to show intellectuals like Malunkyaputta. You wouldn't say a movie is unreal, would you? He might ask. But the appearance of continuity is unreal. And confusing a movie with reality is not right understanding. Most of us find it easy to get involved in certain kinds of movies. We get caught up in the action, we forget ourselves, our body and mind respond as if we were there on the screen. The heart races, blood pressure goes up, fists clench, and the mind gets excited and jumps to conclusions, just as if we were actually experiencing what is happening to the heroine or the hero. The Buddha would say, you are experiencing it, and that's the way you experience life too. This may sound heartless, as if he is saying that excitement and tragedy are no more than a celluloid illusion. Not at all. What he means is that as human beings, our responses should not be automatic. We should be able to choose. When the mind is excited, we jump into a situation and do whatever comes automatically, which often only makes things worse. If the mind is calm, we see clearly and don't get entangled in events around us, leaving us free to respond with compassion. Most of us have never thought much about the mechanics of film projection, so we are surprised to learn that every moment of image on the screen is followed by a moment of no image when the screen is dark. We don't perceive these moments of emptiness. Action stimulates the mind. No action bores it. Attention follows the desire to be stimulated and skips over what the mind finds meaningless. The power of imagination jumps the gap between images, holding them together in our mind. Only when the projector is slowed down do we begin to see the flicker of the screen. the thinking process is slowed until you can almost see each thought pass by. So read Purification. All of the harmful karma ever committed by me since of old, caused by my beginningless greed, anger, and folly, born of my body, mouth, and thought, I now atone for and purify it all. So we're presented with this life that seems continuous, that seems like karma is an inexorable, deterministic sentence. The causes that have existed before us exist. Therefore, the effects that must occur in this time must occur, right? But there's a gap. You can separate the links. You can perceive that gap in time, in thought. And that's part of our mission on the cushion, is to be able to perceive that gap, to be able to perceive that expansive pause. So this is how we can pull the chain apart. This is how we can step into the freedom of this moment where the chain doesn't exist, where the karma doesn't exist, where there's space, where there's, as Eswaran says, there's the freedom to choose that human beings ought to have. And so I'm hearing this verse of purification as an invitation to do that, as an invitation to look at all the chains of cause and effect that have brought you to right now, acknowledge them. They're there. They led to here. But then to step into this now, this moment, step into this openness, this freedom where we get to choose which path we go down next. And we are not beholden to what came before us. We don't have to just do the thing that the narrative suggests up till now. And by entering into that space, by entering into this now, this is how we purify that karma. This is how we make all of that extant karma pure, clean, untroubling. Speaking of this same kind of thing, do you remember what Hakuin says in the Song of Zazen? Even those who have practiced it for just one sitting will see all their harmful karma erased. Just one sitting, just one breath, just one moment. If we can step into this moment, that karma is gone. And it also makes me think of the second patriarch bringing his plea to Bodhidharma, saying, my mind is not pacified. You remember this story? So this is, among other things, this is the 41st case of the Mumonkan. It's short. Bodhidharma sat facing the wall. The second patriarch, Eka, stood in the snow. He cut off his arm and presented it to Bodhidharma, crying, my mind has no peace as yet. I beg you, master, pacify my mind. And Bodhidharma says, bring your mind here, and I will pacify it for you. I have searched for my mind, and I cannot take hold of it, said the second patriarch. Now your mind is pacified, said Bodhidharma. Sometimes the translation is, there, I have pacified your mind for you. In this moment, look around the room, in this moment, where you are right now, where is all that harmful karma? Bring that harmful karma here. I will pacify it for you. I will purify it for you. There's one other often told story around this Sangha that comes to mind here, I've heard a number of folks recount a time many, many years ago when someone was asking Edo Roshi about how to understand the Four Great Vows, how to understand this paradoxical line where we say, however innumerable all beings are, I vow to save them all. How do you save all beings? And Edo Roshi said, well, the first step to saving all beings is to accept all beings, to acknowledge all beings. Well, I feel like we have the same question here. How do you purify all karma? How in this little 4-line verse do you atone for all karma that you've ever committed, beginninglessly? Well, you acknowledge it. You accept it. You accept that all of what has happened has happened. Stop wishing that it were some other way. Acknowledge all of the factors and history and preconditions that have brought you into this room right now. Okay, that's what it is. And in this way, purify it. Lay it to rest, set it aside. And then realize that you're not then. You're not in that past that has happened already. You're now. This is now. You can't find that karma in this room. You can't get your hands on it right now. There's another very closely related set of words that comes up enough times in 4 lines that I think it has to be acknowledged as a theme. And so you can read the verse with a different emphasis. All the harmful karma ever committed by me, since of old, caused by my beginningless greed, anger, and folly, born of my body, mouth, and thought, I now confess and purify for it all. Purify it all. And I think there is probably a whole other Dharma talk somewhere out there about this me, my, mine, I, that shows up 4 times in 4 lines in this verse. But for today's purposes, I just want to offer you a particular Lojong slogan that Hokuto Osho gifted to me a while back. If you're not familiar, very quickly, Lojong is a Tibetan Buddhist practice involving these short slogans that are repeated, almost like mantras. And one of them, according to Hokuto Osho, is drive all blame into one. Or I might edit a little bit. Drive all responsibility into one. Attribute all causes and conditions to yourself. Take responsibility for everything that has ever happened. Because we don't like to do that. We like to blame someone else for our situation. We like to blame someone else for the way we are. We like to create a narrative that says, I'm this way because of whatever, what happened before, because of my parents, because of my brother, because of my boss. And the antidote to that is this slogan, drive all blame into one. Take responsibility for all of it. And I think that's the same thing I've been saying. Take responsibility for all of it. Acknowledge all of it. Because accepting the totality of all of that karma, all of that blame, all of that causality, that's what we have to do to get to now. That's what we have to do to get to the freedom that allows us to do something different, that allows us to be deliberate, that allows us to choose. And I think this is a good time to make sure we're making this real. It's easy for me to talk about this stuff theoretically, abstractly, right? It's easy for me to say, well, we all have preconditions that make us the way we are, or we like to say so. Please think of what those actually are in your life. Please think of what stories you are telling yourself that constrain your ability to act? What narratives do you have that say, oh, I am bound within these boundaries because of whatever, you know? The most obvious place to go is your parents, but it's different for everybody. And so I can play two, that's only fair. I can tell you one of mine. I tell myself that as I was growing up, our family was very conflict avoidant. And that led to a kind of peace, a kind of harmony, a kind of calmness. And I don't regret it, but it means that now today, in my 40s, I am very uncomfortable with confrontation. I don't feel like I can step up and tell someone when I think they've done something wrong. That's not part of my culture. It sounds compelling, doesn't it? It's a story. I've been telling myself this story for decades. It's a story. And at any particular now, something else could happen. So none of these words mean anything to you unless you know what those stories are for you. Unless you know what you've been telling yourself and you're able to take off that shirt and try something else on, so to speak. So the last bit, it's not an accident that whenever we chant the verse of purification, we chant it near the beginning of our service. It's this invitation. It's this invitation as we enter this sacred space, as we enter this sacred right the heck now together, to take stock of everything that happened before we got here, infinitely back in the past, everything that led us here, world events, personal choices, everything. Acknowledge it. Yes, that did happen. And we have to acknowledge it to be able to leave it at the door, to be able to stuff it onto the shoe shelf with our shoes and say, now we don't have to live the same story. Now we don't have to do the same thing over again. And this is so important because I think this is what allows change to happen. This is what allows people to grow. This is what allows deliberate reformation of a life to take place. This is what allows forgiveness to take place. Maybe the most obvious and iconic place to try to catch yourself is in the middle of an argument with somebody. Everybody's got their view, everybody's got their side, and you're just trying to prove to each other how right you are. I'm not saying that's wrong, but try to catch the gap. Try to stop. In that break, you don't have to follow the same chain. And you can say something different. Try to catch that. So, it's quite enough of that. Please accept the invitation. We'll get a chance to sit zazen together for a few minutes. Enter the now. Enter the space. You'll feel the relaxation. You'll feel the expansiveness as you don't any longer feel weighed down, feel hemmed in by this idea that you have to act within this little sphere that's allowed to you by your narrative. Feel free to relax. Feel free to open up. Feel free to be